Hi. In this video, we're going to review the math processes of substitution and evaluation. My guess is, and this comes from a lot of experience, that if you're struggling with this part, it's because you're relying too much on your calculator and you don't know how to operate it correctly. You're ignoring some of the basic math skills you've learned in earlier grades, and we just need a quick review so that we can fix that. So substitution means to replace the variables that are in a solved equation with numbers that you're either given in a problem or that you measure in a lab. So I kind of shorthand say plug. Evaluation means you take those numbers in the equation, perform the arithmetic necessary to get a numerical answer. In my shorthand, I call this chug. So this whole process is plug and chug. Should be fairly straightforward and easy. So, for example, let's say we have the equation f equals ma, and you're told or that you measure the m to be 4 and the a to be 3. So when I say substitute, that means replace the letters with the numbers. So write it like f equals 4 times 3. Do not skip this step. If you mess up something after this step, you're going to lose a lot more credit, and it's more difficult for me to help you if I don't see your substitution. So never skip this step. Now do the arithmetic and multiply 4 times 3 to get 12. That's what I mean by evaluate. So when you substitute and evaluate, you get a final answer of 12. Let's review real quick the order of operations because this is important for evaluating complex expressions correctly. The first thing that you're always going to take care of are the parentheses. Remember, a parentheses could be any grouping symbol like a bracket or a brace or a square root sign. A fraction bar is also a parentheses, something that we forget from time to time. The next thing you're going to take care of, exponents. Typically those are squares and square roots for us. Multiply and divide, those are really the same thing, so you can do those in any order. And then addition or subtraction, and you can do those in any order as well. So when you're evaluating, remember to go through parentheses, exponent, multiply, divide, add, and subtract, or the acronym you probably remember from elementary school is PEMDAS. So as a real simple example to kind of check yourself and see where your problems may lie, let's evaluate this real simple expression, 3 plus 4 over 2 plus 5. Now if you simply pick up a calculator and you start pressing buttons in that order, and you might want to do this just so that you can see it for yourself, and you punch in 3 plus 4 divided by 2 plus 5, the answer you're going to get is 10, which is wrong. Let's kind of see how you should do this using the correct order of operations and working step by step. If you add 3 plus 4, you would get 7. You would do that addition first because the fraction bar is a grouping symbol. Do the bottom one. 2 plus 5 is also 7. And so now your problem becomes 7 over 7, which is equal to 1. You can see that the calculator, if all you did was punch in exactly like you read it, gives you the wrong answer because you're not using it correctly. So make sure that you do each step, rewrite, especially when things are complex. If you're using a calculator, be sure you press enter and get intermediate answers for each step. And again, write things down as you're working. So here are a couple of examples. What I want you to do is I want you to substitute and evaluate each one of those. Press pause on this video while you do that. And then when you're ready to check your answers, press play again and see how I substituted and what the correct answer should be. Okay, so let's see how I did these. The first problem was f equals t minus mg over m. Showing my substitution, looks something like that. Doing the top multiplication first, the 2 times 10, which is 20. Notice how I just rewrote it with 2 times 10 being 20 instead. Subtract the 30 minus 20, which is 10. and then lastly divide the 10 by 2 to get 5. So if you follow those steps and don't get in too big of a hurry, that should be a real easy thing to do. You wouldn't even really need a calculator for something like that. The second one was a subscript Cp equals v squared over r. Substituting, v is 4, r is 2. Do the squared first. 4 squared is 16, and then divide. And so you should get an answer of 8. Third one was a equals v squared minus v subscript 0 squared over 2 delta x. Showing your substitution will look something like this. Squaring those numbers on top first would give you 64 for 8 squared. My bad. So fixing my mistake real quick, 2 squared is 4, and so that should become 64 minus 4 over 12. 2 times 6 gives you 12. You can go ahead and do that part on the bottom. And then when you evaluate 60 divided by 12, you should get something like 5. Sorry for the mistake. On the last one, we had something like x equals x subscript 0 plus v subscript 0t plus 1/2 at squared, which looks like a really long equation, but we still just follow our PEMDAS steps. Showing my substitution will look something like that. I'm not going to touch the 30 for right now. I'm going to do the multiplying. 20 times 6 is 120. And then in the last term, I've got 6 squared, so I'm going to square that first. And then multiply the 1/2 by the negative 10 by 36, which gives you negative 180. And now I can go ahead and add all three of those numbers together, which gives you negative 30. And yes, it's perfectly acceptable that the answer is negative. A quick note about scientific notation. Throughout the year, we're going to see numbers in scientific notation. Do not use the caret key on your calculator, the one that looks like the little roof of a house or whatever. This is incorrect. If a previous teacher told you that, to do that with the caret key, then they were wrong. You should not ever use the caret key when using scientific notation. Instead, you're going to use the EE key, which is typically on a TI calculator, the gold key above the comma. So in order to get to it, you have to press the second key, the gold second key at the top left-hand corner of your calculator. So let's look at a real simple example. If you were asked to enter 9 times 10 to the 9th in scientific notation in your calculator, you'd press 9, then the gold second button, then EE, which is the comma key, then the 9, and then enter. You don't have to press the 10. The EE key takes care of that part for you. The calculator should read, if you would just press enter, 9E9, which is the calculator notation for scientific notation. So do this. 2 more examples using scientific notation. Press pause on this video. See if you can substitute and evaluate, or plug and chug, and then when you're ready, press play, and we'll work through them together. Okay, let's check those 2 samples. The first one, showing the substitution. Again, even though that's a lot of writing, do not skip this step. And when you evaluate that, you should get 3,000. So if you got the numbers substituted correctly, go back, redo the arithmetic, make sure you're using your calculator correctly, make sure you put in the negative exponents as being actually negative exponents. The second one should look like this. And when you evaluate, you should get 5 times 10 to the 7th. It may show up on your calculator as 5E7, or it may show up on your calculator as 5 with 6 zeros behind it. Whichever way it shows up, you can write it in either standard notation or scientific notation. What you do need to be aware of is that sometimes on multiple choice style questions, the format may not be up to you. So you need to be able to recognize that 5 with 7 zeros behind it is the same as 5 times 10 to the 7. You should now be doing the substitution practice. If you have any questions, please let your teacher know. Please be sure to check your answers before you come back to class.